Before I lived in a van, I was working in Chicago about 80 hours a week and going to school full time as a junior and senior is the last 2 years that I was in school. It was unreal. I did end up graduating, but I kind of think what usually takes people 20 or 30 years to realize they don't want to work a 9 to 5. It really only took me 2 years because I hit my breaking point so fast after that. And as soon as I graduated, I realized like I could not do this for the rest of my life. Around the same time, I started looking at social media and seeing that people were living in vans. I wasn't scared. I didn't think there was a chance I wouldn't like it. It just felt immediately like this is what I was meant to do. And I knew that from the beginning. I left the job, I graduated school, got a van, and moved into a van and lived on the road for the last 2 years. So my parents are totally on board about it. My dad tells everyone that I live in a van. He's like, follow my daughter. And yeah, my parents have my back 100%. So this was actually my second van. I lived in a Sprinter before this. And so the build process was very similar to my first van because I went to the same people. But basically what I would do is go to Home Depot, walk around. I would do all the research in the morning. I would go to Home Depot, buy what I needed, drop it off at the barn, tell them what I was looking for kind of and what I wanted with the materials I bought that day, and then they would piece it together. Hi guys, my name is Sydney. This is my 2017 Ford Transit. I have lived in here for a year and a half with my two dogs, Ella and Pearl, who you will meet very shortly, and let's go check it out. All right, so this is how I fill my water tank. I have an 11-gallon fresh water tank and 11-gallon gray water tank. So I just have a little key, I stick this in, and then I can put a funnel in here and dump 11 gallons of water to fill that tank instead of having to carry big gallons out and fill them that way. I also have 400 watts of Renogy solar panels up top. That is how I run my entire electrical system. So my lights, my water, my fridge, my stove, all of that is run based off of my solar panels. Okay, so for the first almost year and a half, I just got these back window covers. I was hanging a blanket up from the back, and I just hung them with hair ties around the lights. And then finally I posted something on social media and I kind of realized how it actually looked all the time. So I ended up getting some van-made gear back window covers. They're made from a couple who also lives in a van, so I like supporting van people, and they're insulated so it's a lot warmer than the blanket, and they just look a lot cleaner and a lot more nice. This is my bedroom. I do have the bench and table conversion, like the dinette conversion, but I always have it set up as the bed, and little known secret with most van people who have the bench and table dinette conversion, we never put it up like that. It's always the bed. I kind of feel like it's false advertisement when I have it set up for something like this just with the tables and benches because I never actually use that. And then my bookcases were just kind of dead space in the back from the benches, and so I figured we might as well fill that up with something, so we decided to go with some bookcases. And by we, I mean the van builders that I had and myself. So then the last thing I have back here is this 6-foot long dining room table. This is basically my dining room office. I kind of just sit here. On BLM, there's not usually picnic tables, so this is kind of my way of having a picnic table no matter where I am, and if there's a table offered or not, I always have something to work at and eat at and get outside instead of doing all of it in my van. Because I never use the table bench kind of conversion, I have kind of converted this mid space into storage, which is really necessary, obviously, when you're in a small space. And when you have the benches and table, this is kind of just wasted real estate in already such a compact space. So yeah, I've kind of just transitioned this entirely to a storage space, so I have more room for my stuff. All right, this is Pearl. She's one of the two dogs. So I've had the other one for a year and a half the entire time I've lived in the van, but Pearl I just adopted 3 or 4 months ago. Yeah, I have a good relationship with a shelter in California, and Pearl here needed a home. So I was only fostering her at first, and then I fell in love with her and I decided to keep her. So now she is mine, and she's the perfect van dog. She stays next to me all the time. The first feature I have outside before walking in is this little fold-out table. And a lot of people doubt if I use this table often, but I can assure you I use this almost every single day. If I'm hanging out with friends or doing anything outside, even if I just have my camping chair outside and I'm just hanging out, it's a lot easier to set my drinks, my food, my book, or whatever, my laptop on this table instead of having to constantly jump in and out of the van. So yeah, I actually end up using this table almost every single day, and it has become quite handy. Welcome to the inside of my little home here. It's pretty typical. I just wanted to have my kitchen up here, my bed in the back. I really prioritized having a large bed because I have dogs, and I really wanted to also make the design of the van feel like home. I'm from Indiana. And so I have mason jars because I grew up eating and drinking out of mason jars. I have corrugated metal from the roof of the barn where my van was built in Indiana. And I just kind of wanted to go with the vibe that would make me feel most at home from Indiana, no matter where I was on the road. First, when you step into the van, I have this little mirror. It really wasn't a priority of mine to have a mirror. I just didn't know what to put on this large blank wall, so it just seemed kind of like a good place to do this. And now that I've been in it for so long, there have been days where I have to do really professional Skype interviews or doing different things where I do need to kind of look my best, and having a place where I can do that does help. And then we have some very beautiful lighting here as well. So this is probably my favorite feature in the entire van, and that is my pocket door. So this just kind of separates the front from the back. It goes out of the way really easily instead of a door that opens up into the space. That kind of takes up obviously more kitchen area. So I really wanted something that wouldn't do that. And being a solo woman on the road, I also loved having something that, in case someone were to break into the front, it keeps me, or it at least buys me time so I can lock this at night. And then that would buy me at least 60 seconds to call 911, I don't know, alarm the van, or get out the back and leave. And instead of having just a curtain where they could kind of throw that back and then they have access to me and my dogs immediately, that just kind of provides a bit of a buffer there. And then lastly, it also separates this space in a way where when I close this at night and I have my back window covers on, I feel like I'm in a tiny home. I lived in a Chicago apartment right before this, and so it basically feels like the exact amount of space already. And so kind of not seeing the steering wheel and the driving area up front makes it just feel like I'm in a studio apartment the same way that I was. So the first feature of the kitchen is my induction stove. So I think the most common way to do things is propane, but I didn't really love the idea of having a ton of propane in the van, which is realistically not that big of a deal, but it was just kind of a personal preference. So I went with the induction stove, which also requires a pretty heavy duty inverter. It doesn't take up as much power as I think some people might assume, but it does definitely pull more than anything else that I have in my van. The backsplash is also from Indiana, so there's a really small local tile shop there, and I've never built my own home before, so I've never been able to bring them business or support them in any way until now. And so even though it wasn't that much tile that I bought, I just kind of liked being able to support them and go to that local shop and pick out something that would be different and not just from your standard Home Depot. Mason jars are a staple in my entire family. My sister decorated her entire kitchen with mason jars. We grew up with mason jars. My sister actually literally named her son, now that I'm saying this, her son's name is Mason. My nephew's name is Mason. And it really is kind of because of growing up on mason jars, as silly as that sounds. I mean, she also obviously loved the name, but we really grew up on these things. We've been eating and drinking out of them forever. We love the way they look, and there's a lip right here that's about 3 inches wide, and I pack them in as tightly as possible. So they don't move as much as you'd really think. I've never once had a mason jar fall. I think the lip is just a little bit wider than it looks, and yeah, I just pack them in as tightly as possible so they stay there. This is the most recent addition to the van. I actually had this in the box since the day I moved in, and I went to a gathering about 2 weeks ago, and I saw it right before the gathering, and I was like, I have to put this thing in finally after so long. And so I had a friend drill it in because I don't have tools in here that I probably should. And so he helped me out, and we finally put the fruit hammock in. So now I have some extra storage in my fridge, which is always a good thing. So this is just a slide out cutting board. I'm not going to pull it out all the way because it's kind of dirty right now. I usually just cut on it and I don't wash it as much as I should. But yeah, that's a cutting board, and I can take it out and wash it if I need to. So there's storage underneath of it as well. And then below that is kind of my main electrical hub for all things electrical. So I have my inverter right here, which I love the inverter. But I have two big AGM batteries, and if I was going to recommend anything in terms of electrical, I would recommend going with lithium batteries. After a year and a half of being on the road, these definitely need to be replaced. They don't hold storage very well, and so yeah, I'm probably going to be getting some lithium soon, which is really expensive, which is why I did not do that in the first place. But now that I'm having to replace these and do lithium, it obviously would have just been cheaper to start with that option. So yeah, that's kind of my biggest electrical recommendation, although I am no expert. So these other drawers, like, it's really standard kitchen storage. This is like silverware and basic things I use every single day. This is more dry food and random stuff, rags, you know, such fun things. And then dishes and extra dry food as well that I put in the mason jars. And this is a disaster. The top level is basically all my cleaning supplies. Bottom one is mostly dog stuff. And above that is my sink. Behind all of the storage underneath here, there's a 12-volt pump that I can turn on, and I have not hot water, so they both just run from the same freshwater tank at room temperature. But yeah, I just switch this on and we have running water. All right, so one thing that is different about my van than most is that I have a 110, we have a visitor. I have a 110 volt fridge instead of a 12 volt fridge. The fridge was one of the later things I purchased throughout the build, and the 12 volt fridges are just really, really expensive, and I chose to invest in a better electrical system that could run a 110 volt fridge instead of you know, not spending as much on the electrical, but spending a lot on just the 12 volt fridge. So this runs 24/7 off of the inverter, and I have a separate freezer, a fridge. There's so much storage in here for food, which I love. I can have ice cream, which so many people in vans can't have ice cream. So yeah, I love having a 110 volt. I had this in my first van. I have it in this one, and I will most likely have it if I ever have a third van. I do not have a shower in this van. I do have a solar shower that I can hang from an eye hook in the back, which is really nice if I'm on BLM and I don't have access to a gym, which is what I typically use. But I do have a portable toilet. It's like $75 at Walmart. Dometic makes the same one for a bit more expensive, but I've had to replace this one like once or twice, so I'd rather just go with the cheaper option because you'd probably have to do that regardless. And so yeah, it's just a 2.5 gallon little cassette toilet that I use like pretty much just at night, so I don't have to leave the van. So my upper cabinets are primarily things that I use every single day. So, you know, seasonal things, my inflatable paddleboard, stuff like that is in my benches because they're harder to access. But because these are so easy to access, I like all of my like undergarments and socks and stuff like that is in this one. I mean, it's hidden, so it's okay. But yeah, some like leggings and pants are in here. And then this is a lot of my camera gear. Hi, hello, that's for my podcast. My podcast is called My Solo Road, but also that's real because something comes out of this cabinet literally every time I ever open it. So cameras, gear, random stuff, yeah, girl stuff, and this thing, pop filter that falls out every single time I open it. And then yeah, this is more clothes. The back one is also more clothes. I would open that, but it's hard to reach. But yeah, all of these basically everyday stuff, anything that I need to access frequently and I don't want to have to dig around in my benches for. This is a just bigger than a queen size bed, not quite a king. I thought that it was going to be a queen, so I ordered a queen size mattress, and then when it got here I realized it wasn't wide enough. So it's actually the width of a king, but we had to cut the length down, so it's not the length of a king. Kind of had to makeshift with foam memory, which is very easily, thank God. So yeah, big bed, high priority. It's so important to be like cozy and comfortable in here. So I really wanted to have like a giant bed that me and my dogs could just hang out and chill in most days. And then right by that are my beautiful little reclaimed wood walls. These are actually just from Home Depot, really easy to find and pretty inexpensive, but I just wanted something different and in like contrast to the rest of my white van. So I like having kind of a partition and feeling like a bedroom and a separate kitchen. Even though it's a small space, I like having different feeling rooms within a small space. So that's kind of why I chose this, and I just thought it was pretty. That's my best reasoning. This is Ella. She's the 1.5-year-old golden that I was talking about. She's the light of my life. She's my soulmate. She's literally everything to me. She was my first kid. I've raised her since she was a very young little pup. She's destroyed parts of this van, but she also has made the adventure of van life like what it is for me. When people ask me if they can bring their dogs in van life, or like, you know, they want to do it, but they're nervous for their dogs. Dogs bring a completely different element to van life that you would not otherwise have. I might not be able to go on every hike in every national park, but the hikes that we do go on, and there are plenty to choose from, are so much more fun because I get to throw the ball and like swim with her and play with Pearl and stuff like that. So yeah, I highly recommend anybody having a dog. But if I would recommend anything, it would be to not get an 8-week-old puppy and then move into the van because that is stressful. Taking her out at night constantly was stressful, but I would do it again, but only for her. This lifestyle did genuinely save my life. It forces you every day to make so many choices and so many decisions. Every move you make, you are in control of that choice. And I didn't feel like I had any control before this. I was really struggling with just like any kind of communication with other people. I would write these like really in-depth, meaningful, you know, captions where I was like pouring my soul into these words, but you can't express all of these different things in a small caption. I started working on, you know, improving my anxiety simply so I could do both at the same time. Like I kind of boosted my mental health in that way and boosted my ability to share with my audience what I've always wanted to share. The podcast is called My Solo Road. I have this way now of me sitting with a glass of wine, you know, like I said, once a week, and talking into a microphone by myself in my van and sharing everything that I've learned in the last 2 years all across the board. Every week it's a different topic, and I have a lot of friends that live on the road, so I'll interview them and talk about like how being on the road has changed their lives. And yeah, it's just been a fun way for me to express more of who I am to my audience than just like pretty photos. We're all going to be really passionate about something, and something that we're gonna do and we're gonna love, and you need to find that thing. Do it now. Stop spending 3, 5, 7 years of research and just like buy a van and figure it out as you go. That's what we all have to do. So if it's not van life, that's awesome. Go find something that you're as passionate about as I am about van life. I have lived in here for a year. Should I start over? Sorry. Pearls, why are you growling? Who are you growling at? She sees that dog. Okay, no.
All right, maybe put her away.
Of course. Thank you.
Wow. No wonder people listen to you.
Thank you.